All right, folks, it's time for another edition of World Edition on November the 18th, 2024. Let's see what's happening in the world, and then we'll see who joins us on this particular day. And all along those lines, Biden is allowing Ukraine to strike Russia with U.S. supplied weapons, and some folks are saying that that will enrage Putin. That is what a retired lieutenant colonel has said, and everything. And the Kremlin has said Biden is fueling the fire of Ukraine conflict with the missiles decision. So definitely Russian officials say Biden's decision to let Ukraine fire missiles deep into Russia could lead to world war. So definitely this is something going on as that war continues and that conflict continues as well. India's capital chokes as air pollution levels hit 50 times the safety limit or the safe limit, and Delhi air pollution reaches severe plus levels. So severe toxic smog is blanketing Delhi and shuttering schools in that area. And Israel is trying to terrorize people. That's what the Lebanon self-defense reveals after deadly strike. Israeli strikes in Beirut center shatter a tenuous sense of security. So Israeli forces kill 76 in a day in Gaza and have ramped up their attacks in Lebanon. And Brazil is hosting the G20 summit amid global tensions and Trump's election victory. So Trump's influence is already generating drama among world leaders as G20 gets underway. So Trump shock waves ripple through the fragmented G20. So definitely this is something going on as the top economies are over there meeting in Brazil. And the Pope is calling for an investigation on whether genocide is taking place in Gaza. So Pope Francis calls for genocide investigation in Gaza and is urging an inquiry into the Gaza genocide allegations. So the Pope is getting involved in this conflict as well. And how 1,000 days of conflict evolved into robot war between Russia and Ukraine is something that's being reported in the news as well. And above Ukraine, a sky full of drones is changing the war according to Bloomberg, and Ukraine has is rolling out robots on the battlefield. So that's something else that folks are talking about in the news as well. And at least 34 were killed in an Israeli strike on Bet Lahi, northern Gaza. So definitely a lot's going on in Israel. And Xi Jinping lays out 4 red lines the U.S. must not challenge in a meeting with Joe Biden. So China's Xi vows to work with Trump during a meeting with Biden, and China uses Biden and Xi summit to warn Trump. So Biden and Xi agree that humans and not AI should control nuclear arms. And in Senegal elections over there in the continent of Africa, Pastif claims a large victory in legislative polls. Senegal's ruling party posed to win majority with opposition leaders conceding defeat. So Senegal's Faye heads for parliamentary majority in tests for a reform agenda. So that's something else going on in that part of the world. And Tropical Storm Sarah weakens to tropical depression after making landfall in Belize. So that's something going on as Sarah dissipates while moving into the Gulf of Mexico, and tropical moisture will spike Florida rain chances. So there might be some rain getting ready to head toward Florida as this particular storm heads in that way. And internet shutdown extended for 2 days in Manipur amid protests over the Jeroboam violence. So fresh ethnic clashes in India state after 6 bodies were found. So Union Home Minister Amat Shah chairs a high-level meeting on Manipur as that crisis intensifies, and India police arrested 23 after violence erupted in that northeast state in that particular country. And Alan Jones, an Australian former radio host, was arrested on sexual abuse charges. So Alan Jones, a top radio host, has been charged with sexually abusing 8 people, and he is a former Sydney radio broadcaster and rugby coach who has been charged with these crimes there in Australia. And like I said, China's President Xi has arrived in Brazil for the G20 summit talks with Lula. So definitely we'll be trying to see what's going on in China's influence in the world as well. And the 6th typhoon in a month makes landfall in the Philippines. So Philippines cleans up as Super Typhoon Manyi leaves a deadly trail. So Typhoon Manyi lashes the Philippines, displacing hundreds of thousands. And coming back to Russia, Russia is targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure with large-scale missiles and drone attacks. So Russia is using Iranian weapons in massive attack targeting the energy infrastructure. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And French farmers are back on the street as Mercosur talks fuel discontent. So French Farmer Union is begging Macron not to forget the Hicks during the G20 visit to Rio. So Malaya is not satisfied with the Mercosur trade deal either, and French farmers are mobilizing for the protest over the EU Mercosur trade deal. So definitely looks like a lot's going on in the world and a lot of conflicts, including India's successful test of a hypersonic missile puts it among an elite group. So India announced a successful hypersonic missile test. So that's something going on as well. So like I said, a lot's taking place in the world, including a Bangladesh tribunal that tells the investigators to finish the probe against the ousted Premier Hassani by next month. Bangladesh is to seek extradition of ousted leader Sheikh Hassani from India. So Hassani is continuing her political activities from India, and Delhi must return her to face trial, according to the Bangladesh chief advisor, Yunus, and all along those lines. Let's see what's going on in the world of the U.S. I do know that a energy secretary was appointed. I believe that they came from the world of fossil fuel and all along those lines. So that was one of the things that took place this weekend and all along that kind of way. And it looks like Dewan and Columbus leaders have condemned neo-Nazis marching through Short North. No arrests were made, and that's in the campus of Columbus over there in New York and everything. So Ohio leaders condemned Columbus March with Nazi flags and racist slogans and all along those lines. So that was actually in Ohio, I should say, and everything like that. But local residents are reacting to the neo-Nazi march in Short North and all in that space, because that is definitely shockwaves down there in Ohio. And Trump confirms plan to use the military for mass deportation. Trump declares true reports of national emergency and military assets to achieve his mass deportation plan. And as Trump vows mass deportation, polls suggest growing support, but not a mandate. And Trump's immigration crackdown is expected to start on day one. And 2 dead and 10 injured in a New Orleans shooting. So that is something going on in New Orleans along a New Orleans parade route and everything in that space. And looks like Trump has picked big tech critic and co-author of Project 2025, Brendan Carr, to lead the FCC. So definitely the Trump's choice for FCC chairman says agency will end its promotion of DEI next year. So Trump has picked Brendan Carr as the FCC chairman, so he'll be leading the Federal Communications Commission. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And Morning Joe co-host holds face-to-face meeting with Trump for the first time in 7 years. So that's something else going on as well. Brzezinski and Scarborough of liberal MSNBC meet Trump for a new approach. So definitely Morning Joe Scarborough and Brzezinski said they traveled to Mar-a-Lago to meet Trump. So after Democrats lost the working class, union leaders are saying it's time to reconstruct the Democratic Party. And Florida's court fight gives insight into the House review of sex allegations against Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, Trump Attorney General pick, is accused of participating in 10 sex parties, and Speaker Johnson opposes releasing Matt Gaetz's House Ethics report. It could open a Pandora's box. And Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for defense secretary, apparently paid an accuser to save job at Fox. That's what some people are reporting over there at CBS. But Trump stands by a defense pick who says encounter with woman was not sexual assault. So definitely that's just some of the picks that are out there. And definitely we'll see more that goes on as apparently Trump is brought in his hunt for a top treasury job after Jocelyn became messy and everything. So it looks like Musk is throwing his weight behind Lutnick for that job of Treasury Secretary. And the DOGE wants to delete entire federal agency, Vivek Ramaswamy says. So definitely, Ramaswamy says we expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. So Kathy Wood says Elon Musk will succeed in his audit of the federal government because he has more proprietary data than anyone's, and 10 programs are out there that could be on the chopping blocks. So I'm going to bring my folks in. And by the way, Biden went and visited the Amazon, vowing to help to fight climate change, and he took a historic trip to the Amazon ahead of the G20 summit and everything. But I'm gonna bring my folks in and see what they got to say and what agencies they would like to see go bye-bye and all along those lines. So I've got two of the founders of the network as well as Rick Rosner. So any agencies that you'd like to see disappear? I know that some people have been talking about that.
Not in the way that he wants to do it. It's been 2 weeks since the election now. And the first week, the stock market went up because thinking that Trump would, get rid of regulations. Then he made his really dumbass cabinet picks, and the stock market has gone down. So we'll see what this third week brings.
Yeah, well, you're correct on the cabinet picks. The cabinet picks were atrocious. If you looked at it, I mean, it seems to me if you're a sex offender, you're obviously going to get nominated for a position. But if you look at just the qualifications of these people, they're absolutely horrible, Rick. I mean, they're going into positions they don't belong. If this guy was a football coach and Trump is not a football coach, his team would get destroyed by another team. Think about it. Head of Health and Human Services, RFK, has no background whatsoever in medical sciences. He's at best an environmental lawyer at best. He doesn't know anything. He might as well nominate those two people sitting over there on the block and have them be head of Health and Human Services. This is how bad.
Have you seen the picture of him on Trump's plane? Where he bought dinner for his cabinet picks?
I bought McDonald's. Okay.
Yeah, and then if you zoom in on RFK's face, he doesn't look so happy.
The thing is, he's playing way over his head. He doesn't have any knowledge of medicine at all. No background, nothing. You might as well get the guy on the diner up, but he picked him because it was RFK and he backed me. Well, great. But what political...
I think it's because his campaign was he wanted to get rid of all the medications that our country is taking and get us into a healthier mindset. I mean, all the conspiracy theories that he wrote about and everything else. People were even sending me copies of his books and said, hey, you need to read this. And I haven't, but and it's not because I don't want to, it's because I've struggled reading since my husband's death. But, and I don't want to waste what mind I do have left on stuff like that. But I think it's because he claims he wants people to become healthier. I hope if that's the case that he gets rid of the vaccines being injected in our fruits and vegetables, because they started injecting the vaccines in our fruits and vegetables. One of the senators has been pushing to get it at least labeled, but they said that they don't have to label it. So those are the things I hope that he's going after. And, maybe getting rid of pharma, but I think he's actually going to push pharma. But
so, I mean, not everything pharma does is bad. Ozempic,
right.
It may solve or at least help with our huge obesity epidemic.
Don't you think that not eating McDonald's would help that?
Yeah, but all right. So when he says Americans need to eat healthier, that's not unreasonable. But Americans hated it when Michelle Obama said the same thing. That's all over Twitter. That's what
she said the same thing and everything. But really quickly, because we got Sasha with us as well, and something that I've been hearing a lot of people say, we've got a CEO that is saying the same thing. So if you've got a car and you get around, many of you will know what AutoZone is everything. And Trump has said that he wants more tariffs, and the CEO of AutoZone has said we will pass those tariff costs back to the consumers. So there's actually some people that are wondering about the cost of these tariffs and everything. So what is your take on that? Because if you've got a car and everything, I know oftentimes you'll go to AutoZone to get immediate repairs and everything, and they're basically saying, yeah, bring them on, and then we'll pass those costs on to you as well and everything. So what is your take around this notion of tariffs that he says he wants more tariffs to have?
Well, I'm going to Harbor Freight today, which is the cut rate tool store that gets all their junk from China. I'm going to buy a set of 30 like mini drill bits for $4. When the tariffs kick in, that'll start costing $10.
And so what? Okay, you're going to have to pay more because you're paying for Americans or someone else other than near slave labor doing the work.
You know, yeah, China, but I mean, it's not going to save me money. Yeah.
This is the cost of doing business. You know, they're playing on an unequal playing field. In other words, our minimum wage and all the liberals complain $7.25 there, it's too low. Well, in China, it's like $2 an hour. Okay. Oh, but it's okay to import from China when they're paying $2 an hour. So yes, the tariffs are correct. That's something I actually agree with Trump on. He's going to weaponize the tariff system. And he needs to do that because go look at the buildings in China. They have done really, really well by being the manufacturing center of the world, while the U.S. lags behind. We lag behind on our PISA scores, at least in math. We're not so bad in reading and science, oddly enough. Well, we lag behind on manufacturing, and part of it is because we cannot compete with near slave labor. It's impossible in the United States. So the only way around it is tariffs, and yeah, things are going to cost more. We voluntarily paid more here in Spain, so we didn't have to buy from China.
Well,
people will do it voluntarily, so let's smack tariffs on people.
But hold on a second, and I was going to get to Sasha and everything. Speaking of slave labor, something that I know Kim has been fighting against and everything along those lines and everything in that space is the notion of human smuggling, and definitely it's been a issue for a while, and apparently there is a trial going on, ironically, I believe, involving the Canada-U.S. border, because the trial is set to begin in a human smuggling case after the freezing death of an Indian family at that particular border and everything. But definitely this whole notion of human smuggling seems to be a worldwide epidemic and everything. And like I said, I know that Kim has been involved with some folks that have been involved in that fight as well. But what is our thoughts? Is this something that we should be concerned about? Because I've heard a lot of people that are involved in that space and are wondering if this is not a worldwide issue and a worldwide problem. I mean, that's part of what my understanding, even the Epstein situation might have been about as well. So how much should we be concerned about human smuggling around the world?
So I think there's a lot of BS in this space. So I think it's a real concern, but it's been politicized like everything else in the U.S., where the U.S. says that there are 300 certain like conservative lunatics say there are 300,000 missing children being used as sex slaves in America, which is, obviously not true.
Empirically, it looks like that is absolutely not true. There are some, but it's not that extent. We should have a subject matter expert opine on that.
I'll try to get a subject matter.
Why isn't the majority of Trump's appointees having sexual misconduct allegations investigations? Do we not have an ethics committee anymore? And the answer to that is correct. There is no ethics committee anymore. So ethics is not part of getting a job done. And obviously, you can be a sexual predator and you can apparently be in office, or you can have sexual misconduct. It's not
a majority. Hold on, it's not a majority. You got 3 accused sexual abusers and rapists. You got Pete Hegseth, you got RFK Jr., you got Matt Gaetz, and Kristi Noem is rapist adjacent because she was having an affair with Corey Lewandowski, who's been accused of sexual assault. But he's appointed another dozen or so, or named another dozen people. And some people think, I don't think so, that he's named these awful people like Matt Gaetz to distract from the lousiness of his less well-known nominees.
That could be. By the way, Matt Gaetz is, in my opinion, just not qualified to be the Attorney General of the United States. He is barely an attorney, Rick. And
I don't think has he ever practiced law, or has he just run for office?
Oh, I was going to say he's barely an attorney. But the thing is, there are so many good people out there. This thing that gets me. A lot of them work for big law firms, and they're just really, really good at what they do. Matt Gaetz is
didn't you have a family member that was attorney general or worked for the attorney general or something like that, Nick? Because I think you mentioned to me several times a family member of yours that was.
Yeah, my cousin Bill Saxby was the attorney general of the United States under Nixon and Ford. So I've known Bill he's dead now, but I knew him when he was alive, and he was the attorney general under Richard Nixon because he was a Republican, obviously. And then what happens, he survived the purges, and Bill Saxby became attorney general under Ford. And then afterwards, he became, he was actually ambassador to India, and I'll be right back.
Well, you'll be right back. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly while Nick is gone, and I think Kim has left as well, one of the big stories that came out of Ukraine is that Biden is saying that we can send long-range missiles that can go further into Russia. Will this be a turning point in the war? And is this something, I'm assuming it is, that you are approving of? And can we finally see, well, I think we're already seeing the Ukrainian fighters go into Russia, but is this a kind of a decisive move that can finally end this long-range war?
Your question is not accurate. The Ukraine has not been sent long-range missiles. They are already in Ukraine for several months. The only thing, there was no permission given to Ukraine to use these missiles on Russian territory. What happened yesterday is that now Ukraine can use these missiles. We are not sure how many kilometers they can now hit into Russia, and whether they can hit anywhere or just Kursk region where Korean soldiers are located and where the fighting is going on right now. The question, main question is, why now? Why not several months ago? Well, Biden's stance. He is a very cautious man. He is a very fearful man. And I'm not so sure whether he's more fearful or the cautious, but it doesn't matter anymore because he'll be out of office in a few weeks. What's happened yesterday is, before that permission was given, Russia unleashed on Ukraine unprecedented attack with hundreds of missiles and drones, and they inflicted severe damage all over Ukraine. It has nothing to do with the front line. It's all over Ukraine. The people are being killed. It's a situation very soon will remind possibly situation in Palestine maybe, or whatever else, but it doesn't really matter because can you believe that Ukraine is quite large country and there is no space to hide from the Russian attacks. What I think Russia did is they used that situation when the Biden administration is getting out of power and the new administration headed by Trump is getting in. However, it will take several weeks. It's not going to happen before January 20th. So there is a vacuum for 2 months between what's today, 18th of November, so there is still December, and then only 20th of January. So for 2 months, Russians feel that they can do unpunished almost anything at all. Because, Trump administration, it's not in power yet, so they cannot do anything, even if they wanted to. And the Biden administration is not going to do anything because that's how they conduct themselves in the last 3.5 years anyway. So the only thing what I don't understand is that in a view of talks between Putin and the next U.S. administration. So idea is to finish the war with some kind of settlement or so on. And I see Russians use these 2 months or so left to grab as many additional territories as possible and inflict as much damage to Ukrainian people, infrastructure as possible. And then it will enhance Putin's position in the negotiations, because whenever Trump will offer him, Putin says, my friend, I already have it. Oh, you offer me this as well? I already have it as well. Or if I don't have it, I will have it in next hour and a half. So what else? Why? What do you want from me? Tell me exactly. Just give me something what I will feel. Give me Alaska. Give me Brighton Beach in New York. Give me something. If not, then go to hell.
So within 2 days after Trump got elected, they were showing naked pictures of Melania on Russian TV, which that's kind of Putin saying, yeah, I don't respect you. I'm not going to listen to you in peace talks. I mean, so right now,
not exactly that. Hold on. It's a signal that this is just the beginning. There is much more to come, and it's not on Melania anymore. It's on you. But they miscalculated. They should have done it maybe 2-3 years ago. Because today Trump is completely insulated from all this garbage.
So right now Russia occupies about 1/6 of Ukraine, a strip of land about 800 miles north to south, 50 to 100 miles east to west. And some of that he's occupied for 10 years, since he took Crimea and occupied the Donbass in 2014. And there could be negotiation but it won't happen, where Putin offers a compromise would be Putin withdrawing from some of this strip of land that's half of the size of the state of California. But he won't do it. There's no signal that he's willing to do any of that. Putin's idea of compromise, Sasha, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is, yeah, that I'll just keep what I have so far and we'll stop fighting, and I'll just keep 1/6 of Ukraine.
See, the dynamics here is as follows. Look at Olaf Scholz phoned Putin and had him 1-hour conversation. Absolutely no result. Same demands. And Macron says after that I'm not going to call to Putin. There is nothing to discuss. The man doesn't want to negotiate anything. He is there to continue the war as long as possible. And I just don't understand how Trump is going to do differently. What is he about to offer to Putin that Putin would listen to him? You see, Putin's position is that as much as Russia is much weaker than the West, Putin understands that much. However, Russian economy is now completely mobilized for a war needs. It's no longer a normal economy, it's a war economy, 100%. And he believes that Western politicians would hate to do the same in their countries because it's not something what popular with the citizens of that country. And the last U.S. election showed that if gasoline will go up 5 cents per gallon, the average American citizen would rather sell his mother and father and everything else rather than pay extra 5 cents per gallon. That's quite obvious. So in this respect, Putin as autocrat and dictator has enormous advantage over the much stronger and bigger West, because what Putin can do inside his country, no Western leader can do inside of his respective country. That's why Putin's position is extremely strong, unfortunately.
Yeah, so my mom lived through World War II, and she told me what it was like when we were on a war footing. Meat was rationed, metal was rationed, no new cars. You had to have a ticket book you took to the grocery saying, I'm entitled to buy 1 pound of meat this week. And
Yeah.
and prices were controlled and not in a good way.
There were definitely price controls and everything like that. We've got Sharif joining us and everything. Sharif, what is your take? What are you hearing in your part of the world and everything as to how you are expecting Trump to be president in 2 months and everything? Are you looking for tariffs, or are you finding ways that your people are looking at the economy of dealing with tariffs should you be tariffed and everything? So what is your take on the Trump administration?
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to give thanks to all of you, those who joined today's session. And very interesting point, Bangladesh right now, it has some challenging situation because of politics, because of the political change and everything. And before the elections, how Trump tweet about Bangladesh, about mob justice, about all of the things, it's actually create a huge impact in our politics right now. Because the Dr. Muhammad Yunus and his regime has a very close relations with the USA, and they are getting support when they come to the power. And the other hand, if we observe Trump friendship with the many people, political person around the world, you can find he's a very good friend of Putin. He's a very good friend of these North Korean presidents, and all of the people, those who have involved with the politics and the very powerful person, he has close relation with them. But good point is that if he can stop the war in between Russia and Ukraine, what he committed before elections, I think this is very important. Second, this Philistine and this Israel war, that is also important for global peace. So that is the interesting contributions US politics can do for the global issue right now. And beside that, as I have few experience from around the world, I can understand that USA has very good political influence. Even though climate change is a very important issue for Bangladesh, for India, for many emerging economic countries. On the other hand, what I understand that Trump do not believe in climate change related things. And that's why in the COP29, we observed that UN, basically they want China should be leader for climate change. So that is another interesting move in the global politics and economy. So I don't know what will happen next 4 years. Definitely you live in USA and you have better understanding about the US politics and procedures and everything. But I can understand from the emerging economy and the Asia Pacific point of view, many of the global decisions actually depends on US. And after Trump comes, many of the things is actually changing. And beside that, he is also anti-immigrant. Many of the Bangladeshi, Indian, Pakistani, many people even they live in USA. I find that Canada also take very strict decisions for that. So, emerging economy has a strong dependency on USA.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, Nick, really quickly, I just was curious your thoughts around this. One of the agencies, because Elon Musk has his own, so I'm thinking that he would want us to use his versus the others that are out there. But one of the agencies that could be on the cutting blocks, and both him and Vivek Ramaswamy have said this, is NASA. So what are your thoughts around the idea of NASA being gone bye-bye and everything like that? Because that's one of the agencies, along with the FCC and some other ones that have been targeted, including the Department of Education. But what's your take on, do we need a NASA or do we not need a NASA?
Not right now. I mean, the thing is, goodbye NASA. I mean, the real problem is that we've way overspent our budget. Oh, wait, we're 35 trillion below. So the thing is, NASA is something that it's not necessary government function. Goodbye. Department of Education. Education's done at the state level. So goodbye, Department of Education, and goodbye, hopefully, the Department of Labor, at least shrink it and get rid of the PBGC altogether and make it a private industry. So I'm hoping to see that we start getting rid of some of this bloated government bureaucracy that all they do is wield power, and they don't really accomplish very much except spend American money and wield tremendous power.
Hey,
So,
Nick, I've got a legal question for you as well, because one of the other things that Trump has said that he will do, and I don't know whether it is legally possible. I'm sure it is, because other countries have done it, including some countries that Sasha has been involved with and everything. But Trump has said that for this mass deportation effort that he's going to mobilize the military, and I don't think it's just going to be the National Guard. I think it'll be some of our active military as well. So is this going to be something that will face legal challenges, or is it something that he can do? Because he's talking about declaring a true report, like a national emergency, and using military assets to achieve this mass deportation plan that he would like.
Telling you right now, Mark, I said we're going to have plenty of material to discuss on the Pod TV network. And one of them is what you just said, is can he force mass deportations of people that broke the law using the federal government? So we'll see. The other one is something Dr. Reyna is looking at, tariffs. In other words, right now we do import from Bangladesh. It's actually been increasing. I was buying shirts from Bangladesh, Dr. Reyna. I mean, you guys are producing shirts and sending them here, and your competition is Vietnam. Buy them to China. They're not in the shirt business anymore, I guess. But the real question is, how are these tariffs going to be used, and what sort of treaties, what sort of agreements are going to be made between us and other countries on a going forward basis? So we're going to see that. I think there's going to be a lot of change in the tariff industry, and you're also going to see a lot of departments eliminated. I certainly believe that they can balance the budget. You need people like Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy. You need crazy people to go do it, because you got to really gut the huge bureaucracy.
They're going to see what they can do, and they'll see if they can be efficient and everything. Hey, Sharif, one of the things that's come out of the India world, and it kind of comes to what Nick was alluding to earlier, and what I think you've alluded to as well, but climate change is a very big issue. I understand that India has got some severe air pollution. I'm thinking that it could be spreading over to Bangladesh and other parts of the world as well, because it has hit 50 times the safety limit. So how concerned should we be about this world pollution and everything, and how much are you dealing with that? I know that even in California, where Rick is, they have some severe pollution efforts. I don't think it's nearly as bad as what's going on in India and the Asian theater, but I do know that with the fires and others, they've had some issues with the climate. So how bad is the climate situation there in India and Bangladesh? Because when I saw that they were at the severe plus, I'm going like, that doesn't sound good. They're shuttering schools. So how bad is it where you are?
Yeah, climate change is actually very big problems. It's in India, it's in Bangladesh, around the world. And most important factor is that for solving the climate change, we need to work together, right? The Western world, the global North and the global South, we have to work together. And what I understand from this COP29, that UN want China should take lead of this climate related projects or climate related solutions and everything. So that is one of the issue. But if you see, even last that time I was not in Bangladesh, I was in USA, but that time I find that Bangladesh has flood. And I asked all of my peoples here in Bangladesh, what is the situation about the flood? They said, we did not see this kind of flood last 50 years in Bangladesh. So we have agricultural problems because of climate change. We have energy related problems, right? We have housing related problems and many complex problems we have. And I'm also working with this Climate Foundation. And beside that, I just want to share one of the interesting aspects of Climate Fund and Islamic finance, because Mr. Nick Palveda, he is from financial industries. I am actually looking for high quality people, those who want to contribute in this industry, because I find that around the world there are many open-minded people like you, right? I find that you people are very good. You have a unique idea. You have a open mind, and we can work together. So Islamic finance is one of the largest finance, because you cannot solve climate problem without money. You need money. you need finance. So when I come to Bangladesh after this US tour, I say to my Islamic finance institutions, those who one of the largest financial institutions in Bangladesh, I said, why don't you contribute for climate related problem? On the other hand, the climate fund, what we are looking for from Western world, this is not actually distributed in proper way. Even I can give example from Bangladesh that we get some climate fund, but the previous government, they took like all of the money in it's actually corruptions. But if the global north and global south work in a professional way and effective way with Islamic finance and with climate finance, Islamic finance also very big. It's around $5 trillion finance, right? On the other hand, climate finance also very big. And Western world has good technology, good innovations, modern science, and many more things. And global south need your solution, right? So I actually developing some of the idea and developing some patent on that particular issues. If the climate finance and Islamic finance can work together, we can solve many complex problems, not only in Bangladesh, not only in Pakistan, no, even Islamic finance, anybody can use, like Hong Kong using, Singapore using, Australia using, anybody can use, even they are not Muslim, they can use these things. So it can create global peace. Right, the Muslim communities, suddenly we see Islamophobia, but I know there are many good people in this Muslim community. Suddenly see China-phobia. I know China has many good people. So things is that with good business activities, maybe Pot TV can take the initiative, right? If global north and global south can work and we can contribute with this climate finance and Islamic finance, you can bring lot more solution for global south and global north. And this is the way, like innovator, they go for some innovations from your MIT, from Harvard, or from Stanford, or from good research center. On the other hand, global south also financially contributes, and global north bring their commitment with the climate fund. That is the real solution, and it can bring more success for our community. And I'm very happy. I'm getting a very good response from around the world. I'm getting response from Khalifa Rashid bin Maktoum Foundations. I'm getting response from OIC. I'm getting response from many North American good scientists, let's say Tando, many Nobel laureate. Even I have Jewish people. I have Hindu peoples, many different religious people. They come and they say, yeah, this is something we can work together. So I think we have a lot to do. We should not only wait for the political people, those who just take decisions and creating problem. Better, we are the common people. We work together and bring more solution for our economic and social aspect. That is the way of getting good solution for us.
Well, we're being joined by Steve and everything. We're talking about climate, and I know he's been involved in climate and tech and everything like that. Hey, Steve, I know you've probably got some things that you want to talk about as well, but I'm going to give you a lead in that Nick's going to love as well. But I learned something, a country that is not known for getting that white powdery stuff known as snow and everything, but apparently last week they had it for the first time ever and everything, which shocked me, but I did hear it from several reliable sources and everything. But yes, Saudi Arabia had its first ever snow, and people are still trying to figure that out because they've never had snow ever in probably centuries, if not millennium, but they did have literally a snowstorm. You can see the pictures, and the camels look very confused because they're not used to snow and everything. So they looked very confused in those pictures because they have not had, I know snow for centuries, and I think probably ever, but I don't know that for a fact. I got to do some research on that. But it is something new that they are not used to having. But they did have a snowstorm last week and everything. So I don't know if you've heard about this and your thoughts around that and climate in general, but I know you've got some other things that you want to talk about as well.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, that's interesting. I think climate change, I'm just here for a few minutes today. I'm leaving the country in 10 days, and I've just got a lot to go. So I'll be gone the rest of the year, but it's great to have our guest with us. I mean, I think climate change is something that we're going to see. I think it's now going to be kind of a setback with, I don't think the Trump administration is going to focus as much on it. I think you'll start to see more deregulation and then movement away from getting into these international agreements for climate change. But we've had a lot of jobs created around sustainability and green, with many electric battery manufacturers getting success in North Carolina, where Nick, you and I live, Forge Battery in Morrisville, a number of others. So I think this should be very interesting moving forward, and we look forward to seeing that. And snow in Saudi Arabia, I think that speaks for itself. And all we're hearing out there in the news, the United States has said that Ukraine will be able to fire missiles, turbulence in the Middle East, turbulence in Ukraine, and of course the main turbulence, political turbulence, as now many of the Trump loyalists being nominated for positions, including RFK, including Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, and we don't know whether it's a litmus test for whether the Republicans are going to support it, but I do think that it's going to be something that we're going to see moving forward. Are they going to do this in a recess session, which hopefully they don't do, because I think it's important to have folks confirmed through hearings, because that's in the public. But Trump 2.0 has begun, and we're going to see. And I did have a chance to see the president briefly last Wednesday. I'm walking back into my hotel, and he's coming up the escalator at the Capitol Hyatt, and I didn't say hi to him, but he was only 5 feet from me, and he's a lot taller than the TV makes him look. He's also more confident, and has a kind of TV image about him that I think draws people to him. But and I got a Trump chocolate. One of his people gave me a Trump chocolate, a chocolate bar with his image on it. So was quite an experience. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to open it up for the panel. But interesting times, and I think the next few weeks will be critically important moving forward of what we see with Trump 60 days out from being sworn in to be the 47th president of the United States, and the first time in United States history since Grover Cleveland that someone has come back in between terms. But this, before Trump, the last thing I'll say, it was Richard Nixon, the greatest political comeback, losing to Kennedy, running for governor of California, losing, going to work for an international law firm, getting international experience with China and other places in the world. And then 68, 7 years after he had lost the presidential election, one of the closest elections in history, Richard M. Nixon came back and won, and beat George McGovern, and then was a very popular president, and then got hit with Watergate. But now Donald Trump's come back is going to be, I think, probably the best. I mean, keep in mind, 2 years ago, he was a 60% unapproval rating. He had lost the midterms. All these indictments were coming out. No one ever thought that he would win again, and here he is, going to be back in the Oval Office. So
he's back in the Oval Office and everything, and we'll see what happens. There's even people speculating about him trying to usurp the rules and do 2 consecutive terms as opposed to the interrupted terms. Because I've heard some people guessing as to whether he could have a third term, even though I think legally that is not possible. But I've heard some people floating that idea.
Yeah. You can't have that. I mean, because it's you have to ratify the Constitution of the United States, which would take 2/3 of the states. And then you would have to ratify, you'd have to get approved by 2/3 of the Senate. So I don't think you'd be able to get that. I think it'd be tough. So this is his last term, and I think he has a chance to do good. I just hope as an analyst that he would bring the country together and also represent the people who didn't vote for him. But based on these recent nominations, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out and all along those lines and everything like that. But yeah, that was just a couple of the shots, and I'll bring them up again, of the snowstorm that happened last week in Saudi Arabia and everything like that. But you had something you wanted to add to the conversation, Rick, and everything.
Yeah, so votes are still being counted across the West Coast, even though that election was, 13 days ago? I don't know why California is so freaking slow, but there's still a couple million more votes to go from California, which favors Harris. So now Trump's slice of the popular vote has dropped under 50%. He's at 49.96% of all votes. And I just think it sucks a little bit that, that only half of Americans voted for him, but we're going whole hog. He doesn't govern as a centrist. It would be great if he would, to some extent, but he's picking cabinet people that, you know, make most people a little nervous, and his positions, a lot of them are opposed by, you know, if you trust polls, about 70% of Americans. Like, just for one thing, like any kind of gun regulation. He came out in favor of it, and then the NRA talked to him, and now he won't do anything about guns, no matter how mild.
Yep, definitely. And it looks like it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and everything. Steve, what's your thoughts? We were kind of talking about it earlier about the mass deportations that are being put out there.
Oh, yeah.
We've had some folks that have been involved in the Dreamer community and everything.
Yeah.
But what is your take?
Well, I'll be talking about this more this year. Let me just take a stab at saying that first of all, I want to say from the outset that I do think that this is one of the major reasons why Harris lost the race, because I don't think that she was able to distance herself from Biden. As she had said, she was going to shut down the border, but there were a lot of illegal immigrants that came in, and many of these illegal immigrants are coming without seeking asylum, which is actually the process. So there's limited asylum cases where, because of political persecution or torture, you have a legitimate reason to come to the United States. For example, after the Holocaust in World War II, many Jewish folks were able to come in the United States seeking asylum, even like Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State of the United States. Now, with that being said, there's 2 or 3 points I want to make about this. Now that, first of all, it's going to cost a lot of money to deport all of these illegal immigrants, about $88 billion. It's a lot of money, and that's going to actually could affect our economy, because a lot of our industries like agriculture, farming, retail are done by illegal immigrants who are working and actually paying taxes. So they are contributing revenue to the United States economy. So it's going to be hard to do this, whether Stephen Miller, who's deputy chief of staff, says they're going to roll tanks in. I don't know. They're going to use the military. The second thing I'll say, there will be a separation of families. Now, one aspect of immigration that we're seeing affect North Carolina, for example, is what we call documented dreamers. So the dreamers are those individuals who are the kids of parents who came here illegally. But there's also documented dreamers. And these are people who are the children of those who came here legally on H-1B visas. Many are from India. Now, they're aging out of the system. And so because if Trump revokes DACA protection, the dreamers will have to go back. So these are kids that have lived here their whole life. They're now like 25, 30 years old. They're entrepreneurs. 35,000 in North Carolina. There's about 500,000 in the United States. In North Carolina, they produce about 484 million in the economy. I have a situation right now where there's a UNC student who may have to leave. She's afraid that she's going to get deported. So to answer your question, this is not a black and white issue. It's a very complicated issue. I hope that it can come up. I think the best way to do this is that the president could work with the Congress and Senate to get a bill passed on comprehensive immigration reform, where we could make it illegal to cross the border, enforce it through border control, security, drones, technology, which I've heard Senator Tillis said from North Carolina would be good. Long answer to your question, Mark. A lot to unpack there. But I think moving forward, we're going to see this impact families. And they asked the guy, I think who was there before, if grandma's in the kitchen and the ICE immigrants get there, would you take grandma back to jail? And he goes, yeah, I would cuff her right there. Kind of this heartless, inhumane thing. But you got to believe everything Donald Trump says. I think he will do it. He doesn't do anything if he doesn't say he's going to do it. He warned us about these nominees. It's happening. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, before we wrap up, we've got Shaquille joining us from Australia. He was asking about the moderation system earlier in the chat, but now he's joined us. So any thoughts around this conversation on this particular day, everything from tariffs to immigration to a number of other things? I know we only got a few minutes ago, but I'll turn it over to you, Shaquille.
Well, the week I've been gone, everyone just wants to keep carrying on about all these Republican terrible ideas and how bad Trump's picks are. This immigration issue is not the fault of Republicans. It's the fault of Republicans and Democrats. They've both been in power at various times. Nobody ever seems to want to address the points that I've brought up, that those kids whose parents didn't bring them across the border, nobody advocates for them and says, you know what, those kids would be a good addition. The argument that Americans make about illegal immigrants contributing to the economy, by what? By you underpaying them what they would otherwise receive? How unfair is that as a system? You have immigrants that come across, but the entrepreneurs from those developing nations are unlikely to want to break your immigration rules in order to get entry to the United States. So you don't get the best and brightest of other countries. Now, look, of course, I'm an advocate for immigration. My family's benefited from that incredibly. I'm not trying to deny people opportunities, but the immigration issue needs to be resolved. And having what you've allowed to happen in the last couple of years, where you've had estimates between 10 million and 20 million, who knows, where these people have then come over, and what are they going to do? They're going to rush to have children, because then you're going to say, well, we don't want to separate families. Meanwhile, somebody else in the country that they've moved from hasn't broken the rules, has waited in the queue, and then gets told, well, look, these kids that are already here have been educated in America, so we're going to let them jump to the front of the queue, and you in the meantime are going to get pushed back. Now, for those of us that come from countries like India and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and a lot of these other countries that are developing, if you've got family that still live there, what are you supposed to say to your nieces and nephews and cousins and all that? You're supposed to say to them, hey, look, you sit here and suffer because somebody else has jumped in front of you that may have actually come from a wealthier family than yours. Is that fair? So I think that the way that this is being framed, that what's happening is inhumane, really doesn't address the issue. And I think perhaps people should stop name calling and start actually addressing the very difficult issue that the United States has caused for itself by allowing immigration and other matters to get to the points that they have.
I will agree with you because of this. When I moved to Spain and I got my visa, I just got it Friday, but I wasn't sure if I was going to get it. So guess what? I booked the flight back to the United States, like any responsible person would do. Unfortunately, a lot of the immigrants here in the United States aren't booking those flights back to their home country. Instead, they're going to go here no matter what. So what's wrong with them? So no, I don't cry for them, because what they should have done is book their flight back until they got a visa, like I did and every other responsible.
Well,
and by the way, I would have gone back to
the argument as well about having people work in farming or manufacturing and etc. If America needs a workforce like that, then create a special visa for them.
Correct. Right.
Like Dubai does.
Yeah.
Why would you use that as an argument of saying, okay, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ignore our own laws, our own immigration laws, in order to allow people to flood across the border and be exploited by businesses. And then you want us to pay more taxes? Why don't you pay more for the goods that you want to buy?
I hear what you're saying, Shaquille, and we're getting ready to wrap up a couple of things.
Hey,
One,
I got to run, guys. Hey, just a quick announcement. I'll be with David Walker at 4:30 for our last American Politics show from 4:30 to 5. Mark, send us the link, and if you could.
I've already sent you the link, but I'll send it again. It's the same link that we would have used for 4 o'clock and everything. Just really quickly, as I know we're winding down, my cousin's son just actually got his residency or his visa from a country that's the opposite way. So he actually got it for Mexico, because he's actually working in Mexico and everything, even though he is.
I'll make a quick comment about climate change, if I may. Yes, I just want to remind people that Donald Trump, we've only got 30 seconds. I just want to remind people that Donald Trump is not opposed to climate change issues as such. What he is opposed to is the international agreements and international accords that create an unfair situation for the United States and many of its key allies, where the United States is required to cut emissions despite the fact that they are already declining in their emissions, as is Australia and the UK, whilst other countries don't have any rules at all. The Paris Agreement, the Paris Accord, is a joke, and I find it fascinating to hear liberals talk about how bad it was for America to pull out of the Paris Accord. But when I ask them for the last several years now, can you please tell me what's in the Paris Accord? Tell me what America agreed to. Nobody can tell me. So you desperately want to stay in the Paris Accord, but you have no idea what the Paris Accord says? So perhaps before we criticize Donald Trump and Republicans, it might be helpful to find out, well, he says it was an unfair agreement. Was it an unfair agreement? Let's go and have a look. But nobody wants to do that. But suggest that perhaps those people calling for unity might want to actually consider what the other side's saying and go and check it out for themselves rather than just criticizing all the time.
Well, fair enough. And people should be researching all the time in that sense and everything. Just really quickly, because I know you've been to that country, as has Sharif, and if you can answer quickly and everything, what was your take? Because I found it fascinating, and that's why I brought up the picture a couple of times. And I know you've traveled to Saudi Arabia as well as other parts of the Middle East, but the fact of a snowstorm that hadn't happened in 50 years just was blowing my mind and everything. So I just wanted your take on snow in Saudi Arabia, because I'm sure that you've been to that country and probably have never seen snow in that area, but apparently it happened last week. So I just wanted your take as a world traveler.
Yeah, my observation, actually, climate change is real. That is very important. And we need to fix this climate change related problem. Secondly, I just want to respond to my friend, Mr. Shakil, because I have long-term visa in USA, in Canada, and Australia. But I just finished my job, come back to my country. So there are many people, those who go to USA and they just come back. Everybody is not want to live in the USA or Canada illegally or something. Third thing, let's say from my family, I can understand that, let's say my uncle, they live in USA or Canada and Australia. My 2-3 generation live in these 3 countries, including UK. So many of them actually, they bring finance from Bangladesh to India, to UK or in USA or in Canada or in Australia. So immigrant not only, definitely they make their life more easy and safe. And if you want to understand the Paris Agreement, you have to engage with emerging economy. How the global north sometimes discuss, like Mr. Shakil, it's like they're actually negotiating in I'm sorry, but things are like it's a fish market. They are blaming each other. We are actually blaming each other and trying to make things cheap. Things are not like that. I request everyone visit Bangladesh, visit India, visit Middle East, visit a different part of the world. Then you can understand climate change create a major impact. So we need to work together. We need to work together. If we say it's a many more things, I want to say it's a political propaganda. I think Shakil also immigrant in terms of how I understand. He's also
Sharif and I,
like you. My cousin actually like you. Those who are actually immigrant in full time in USA or Canada and Australia, at some point they hate immigrant because they do not want to see our face.
No. Hold up, Sharif, please. That's not what I said.
I respect you, but definitely climate change is real, and we need to understand the problem in a deeper way. I do not want to say. That's why I'm bringing the solution of climate finance and Islamic finance. So let's work together. Let's work together. Thank you.
I just want to respond to a couple of things. I want to avoid some friendly fire, Sharif, because you and I are part of some of the same international organizations. Let me just address a couple of things. I am not opposed to immigration, and I'm certainly not suggesting that the majority of people that come over from the countries you mentioned come over with the intention of overstaying. What I am saying is that the United States and many other countries in Europe, Australia, etc., have a broken immigration system. And what they are talking about doing is allowing people who shouldn't have stayed in the country to stay there and preferencing them over people who want to immigrate. That's what I have a problem with. I certainly don't have any problem with immigration. And for the reasons that you brought up, that immigrants do bring economic advancement, they bring new ideas. I support immigration, but it has to be done properly, not in the haphazard way that's happening, and not in a way where some people get an unfair advantage. The second thing I'll say about climate change, I care about the environment, very deeply about the environment, and I care about the planet. I want to make sure that future generations of living creatures are able to enjoy a clean planet. Climate is certainly changing. There is a question about how much of that change is based on human behavior and how much of that is natural phenomenon. In relation to the stuff that is something that we can control, we should be doing things about it. The problem that I have with many of these international organizations is that when you look at the finer details of what they're proposing, it doesn't solve the issue. For example, biofuels. So they say, let's cut down forests that have been there for hundreds of years in order to burn the wood. The UK, there's a report out of the UK at the moment that they're talking about buying wood from North Korea and Russia to burn it in order to have biofuel, and they're calling that a renewable energy source. That's absurd. And I don't think that anybody in their right mind would hear that and go, oh, that sounds like a good idea. That is my objection to some of what is being advocated for by these international organizations. So it's not that I am opposed to climate change strategies, but I think we need to have proper conversations about it, make sure that they are economically viable, and also make sure that the environment is being saved and not hurt by what's being proposed. Are we over time?
We're out of time. Just really quickly, your snow in Saudi Arabia, though, hit the end button. So that's for you, Shaquille. What's your thoughts on this snow in Saudi Arabia?
Well, look, it's certainly an unusual event. I think from memory there was something to do with an ice sheet or something. But look, certainly snow in anywhere in the Arabic countries is certainly very interesting. So I wish I was there to see it.
Same here.
And those camels, I'm sure, are very, very confused. I will see you guys on the Economic Show.
All right.
Thank you.